you're licensed through your state, or you may have a federal license through DC, but most likely you've gone through a state bar licensure first. If the court is ordering you as an attorney to act and you don't act, you're in contempt of court. And you could, and it is a very, very involved procedure, but you could lose your license if you violate court orders as an attorney. If your client refuses to comply with court orders, you are the attorney. It's your client's actions. If it's your actual act or non-actions, it's different than your responsibility for your client's actions. So I wanted to make that part clear.
So in this case, would the client be Pam Bondi?
Well, it's interesting how you have to play this out, because the client is the government, is the United States. Correct?
Right, but it's under this theoretical, and this is a very theoretical example.
Right.
But it is ultimately the Attorney General who makes the decision whether or not to comply, not, as you point out, the Assistant U.S. Attorney who appears before the Honorable Judge.
So the Attorney General at that point would probably, it's interesting because usually you might seek an opinion from the Attorney General as to whether you have to act. It may be she goes to the court to get some kind of, declaratory or some kind of relief, or not relief, but, a ruling from the court on whether she's compelled to act. It gets complicated, but the actual client is still going to be the people, the United States. So I really have to think that through ethically. It's a bit confusing, but if the court ruling is for her as an attorney to act in her role as an attorney, then that's where you would put your bar license, sure, maybe at risk. So now the last thing I wanted to comment on, why I came on stage, was your whole Diana Ross comments. And how he got these people. He had Lex Wexner's money that he was investing. That's what kind of really parachuted, or just got him, catapulted him into a lot of this. He was well known on Wall Street. There's a couple of people on the app that worked in Wall Street years ago that talk about him and the work he was doing. But the Wexler's money was really the big boost for him. To have these parties, I come from a city, we have these parties all the time, and if we need celebs and fancy people and all kinds of high profile people, it's not that hard to gather them. There's actually agencies that will do that for you. But, if you want to have a big splash, and I tell you to look at the guy that does maybe the white parties. It's the guy from Fanatics that all of a sudden now has parties with every celeb and every important person. People do that. The fact that he did it is interesting, but I don't think it's as unusual as you are stating it to be. I also think what's another thing that, I don't know if you considered this, is some of these names and some of these people, in doing business with him or going to his premises, someone like Bill Clinton would have, he still has a Secret Service patrol. He still has people that do a deep dive as to who he's interacting with and where he's going, even post-presidency. And the same may be true with other heads of state, that they just don't go to someone's house for dinner. There's some clearance as to
that SB entered into, and they weren't notified. They didn't approve the terms of that sweetheart deal that gave him the house arrest and obviously created immunity to people like Ghislaine Maxwell, who's now seeking a commutation of her crimes and her involvement in this. So where does Trump fit in all this? Clearly, the optics are horrible. The Republican lawmakers that want to continue to carry his water over these images and what that says to the party man that they're covering for is why this is probably not being uncovered the way that it should be, and why Bond Day. And I really appreciate Abby's comments, because I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand any of the potential violations or bar exposing, behavior. But I do know you cannot lie before the courts. You cannot lie before a sitting judge. And that's why, with regard to the bogus claims that the 2020 election was fraudulently stolen, was not championed in a court of law by the likes of Giuliani and the others for fear of disbarment. So there's that. So yeah, Gary, I think ultimately the victims deserve justice. The crimes that were committed. With regard to your national security question, I think that the House leaders would have been given a little knock at the door by the intelligence apparatus with regard to the law they passed and said, hey, by the way, guys, we are compromising very massive national security risks with us going forward with this witch hunt. And I know that in the past, there are examples of where justice was not served in our court of law because of these high-level classified documents or national security realities that have to be protected. We brought up the Iran-Contra scandal. There was a gentleman that had his case thrown out of court, a civil rights attorney by the name of Daniel Sheehan. You can Google Mr. Sheehan. He represented two investigative reporters in the late 80s who were covering the Iran-Contra scandal and the illegal wars that were being fought in Nicaragua. And two U.S. reporters were maimed by bombings that occurred at a high-level meeting down in Nicaragua. And Sheehan brought suit in the federal courts in Florida, going after Oliver North and the rest. And the judge threw it out. He did not have his day in court on behalf of the two investigative reporters. And the case was thrown out, and he countersued, and his civil rights, it was called the Christic Institute, was bankrupted. So it's very difficult to beat this apparatus in courts, Gary, without it really, I can go on and on about all these cases that have never seen the light of day.